Hi, my name's Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. I'd like to tell you a joke. It's what I told in church on Sunday, and I think it's kind of cute. But there's this church, and it's in the worship service, and they're running low on money. I guess churches are always struggling with money, but anyways, it's running low on money. And the pastor at the front of the church says, we're really in really dire straits. We really need you to be extra generous this Sunday. So I'm going to tell you what, the person who's the most generous with the church this Sunday gets to pick the next 3 hymns. And so the ushers go out and they have the collection plates and they pass it through. And then all the ushers come forward with the plates. And at the very top of the top plate is a $1,000 bill. And the pastor, he's just overwhelmed with joy. And he looks over the congregation and he says, the person who was so generous to give $1,000, please stand up. And at the very back of the church, there's this older woman. She stands up and he says to her, come on down. And she comes down to the front of the church and she's kind of shy and a little bit at the front. And the pastor puts his arm around her and he extols her and he commends her to the congregation and celebrates her joyful giving and her extravagant giving. And then he looks over the congregation and he turns back to her and says, well, now it's your choice. You can pick the next 3 hymns. And this old lady, all of a sudden, she stands tall and her eyes start to glisten. And she looks out over the congregation and she sees the 3 most handsomest men. And she says, I pick him and him and him. Now, I got a good laugh in church. I hope you're laughing too. And of course, the point of the story, for me, for at least today, is that we understand one thing sometimes by a word, but it actually means something quite different to someone else. We might say something to someone and they take it in a very different way, usually to our detriment, I think. Sometimes I've gotten away with saying something and someone's interpreted it in a very positive way more than I meant it. But most of the time I'll say something, or probably you've said something, and someone goes away taking it more negatively than we ever meant. And that brings something to our attention that life is really one act of interpretation after another. Everything that happens in our life is an interpretation. I was driving down Highway 6 and they're doing some major construction and the highway came down to 1 lane that was just grinding along at a really slow pace. And it probably extended my drive by half its time. And I'm sitting there going, man, what happened here? And it's so tempting to think that something in reality, someone, the project manager for the road construction, or the city planner, or even some cosmic force is out to thwart me in this moment. And there's this underlying sense that there might be some hostile intentions going behind this construction project, when of course it has nothing to do with that at all. When I can't find my car keys, there's no malevolent force trying to get me. And I came across a really interesting quotation I'd like to share with you. It says this: seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking but reflects your choice of what you want to see. And of course the question in that is, what do you and I really want to see today? Because the understanding is you're going to see what you want to see. And if we're seeing a lot of negativity and frustration and angst and fear, then that's because at some deep level that's what we want to see. And that's humbling to think about, because why would any of us want to see this negativity in our lives? Why would you want to see such hostility or assume the presence of that kind of resistance to us? Why wouldn't we want to see joy and light and peace and love in our day-to-day living? It's all out there. It's all there. Everything in life is there. But as that quotation says, we'll actually find what we seek. We'll actually see what we go looking for. And I think that the great challenge for us as people, as human beings, is to try to get all that muck off our inner lens that allows us to interpret life. See, we look through a lens and we interpret what we see through that lens. And somehow this muck has gone on the lens. And we think it's reality, but in fact it's just the muck on the lens. And if we could just clean that lens off, wow, we'd be home free in a sense to see this other world. What the scriptures say is the true world, the world of deep joy and peace and love and blessing. And that's the gospel, that is the true world. Jesus suffers crucifixion, yet the resurrection proves that God's intention to us is one of goodness. Even in that most horrid place, there's this extension of blessing unmeasurable to us through our Creator. God takes the worst thing and makes it the best. And so I ask you this day, think about what you're looking for, what you're seeking in your life. And you can know that by what you're finding. And so question about what you're finding. It's not that world out there that's doing something to us. There's not this hostile world out there that's trying to angle us or mess with us so much. It's actually what's going on the inside of us. And if we really want to change the world, the first thing we need to do is change ourselves. Gandhi says, become the change you want to see. We need to become that change ourselves of what we want to see out there. If we want to see a world of joy and peace and love, then let us begin the task by ourselves becoming that very place of peace, joy, and love in our day-to-day living. You know, we've learned the dark lessons. We talked about this last week. But this week, let's learn the lessons of light. Paul went, in the scripture passage we looked at today, is reminiscing in a sense about his ministry at the very end of the book, his letter to the Roman church. And there's a sense of joy in his presentation of Jesus to the world. Because for him, Jesus is the matrix by which we re-see life, we reframe life. The way that we move from the dark lessons to the lessons of light. The way that we actually can come to know the ways of our Creator towards us. That God is extending immeasurable blessing every moment of our lives to us. That this presence is with us in all circumstances. And the invitation today is just simply to open our hearts and see in a new way. And that begins simply by cleansing the lens and embracing the lessons of light today for us. So go and seek that reframe today. Look out into that world. Look for love. Seek peace. Seek the joy of the Spirit, and you will find it. It will be given to you, as Jesus says. Seek and you will find. Go in peace.